Because the thing I like about this horse is when he is targeted for a race, I think he really does perform. Daryl, you confident on anything?
Not at this stage, but I have had a bet on one at a big price.
So it's time for Sunday, day 3 of the November meeting. This, for me, is the best day's racing. Excuse me. I don't know why I went all crackly there. I mean, Daryl has just said now we're talking about it because we've gone on to Sunday. There's probably going to be a few more races we want to cover within here. I'm going to keep myself as mute as I can about the ones I don't really have an opinion in, but I like to have an opinion in all of them, don't I? So there's a Novices Chase that kicks off. It's a 3 miles Novices Chase. Looks all a bit over the shop, to be honest with you, but I can't let a recording go without mentioning Mr. Coffee. So I've mentioned Mr. Coffee. Jamie, what do you like in the race?
Griffin Cottage will win, Dave. The form is there. Fourth in the Albert Bartlett. Still has 4 lengths to make on Bardenstown Lad, but if you watch Bardenstown Lad, I was there that day in the stall. He battered every fence, and the stall doesn't take much jumping. So we know Mr. ABW will be on about Bardenstown Lad. If he doesn't mention him every fucking recording day to you, look, he just loves John McConnell. We'll leave him at that. But I think, and if you look as well, the horse that won that day in the stall, Life in the Park, was at the October meeting, and he stopped to walk, and they didn't go that quick in October. I think Ballygriffin Cottage, if he jumps even half a bit decent, he'll win.
Fair enough. Daryl, you with me with Mr. Coffee, nap of the Sunday?
I think he's got a fantastic chance, yeah. I think he's got a massive chance here. Second season novice, effectively. He is a second season novice in this particular race, taking on the Albert Bartlett form last year, which I thought the Albert Bartlett form last year was a bit of tosh, really. Mr. Nice Guy, I thought was a very good horse. He's out for the rest of the season. I think Manana Kakuna, I think those are the two that are miles clear. I thought that Albert Bartlett was terrible. Obviously, the ill-fated Ginto would have been in the mix as well, but I thought it was terrible in behind. You've got to remember Ballyfin Cottage might have been 4th in the Bartlett, but he was beaten 13 lengths. And I just think it's terrible. I think it's terrible. That's why I fancy Tom Hill for the Brown Advisory, because I just don't think much is going to come from that, other than perhaps Medela Kakuna. I think Mr. Coffee, he's a bit of a nutter, isn't he? But he's definitely got ability. I think he goes well fresh. He was beaten last year, first time out at Newbury, but I think he was just outpaced over 2 miles there, as opposed to being sort of not fit and ready. A couple of years ago, he absolutely bolted up at Sandown first time out. I think he's still learning with racing. I was surprised that they put him in as favourite for the Topham Chase at Aintree at the end of last year. I didn't think he was going to take to that at all, and I thought 5-1 was a terrible price for that. But he obviously goes well here. He broke my heart a little bit when he getting beaten by Shumbard at Cheltenham and Kim Muir. He probably should have won that. So there's a question mark about his attitude, but I just think that this is a fantastic opportunity for him. I don't think the form of, for example, Griffin Cottage's point-to-point form is worth anything at all. He's entitled to improve, don't get me wrong. And I agree with Jamie in terms of Bardenstown Lad. I think he's the better horse than that one. He can jump for toffee at Listowel, and he didn't look like a natural. He wasn't running away. He wasn't running away from his fence on the landing side. So I'd be firmly against him. Indigo Breeze was interesting, but the step up and trip does ask another question. Not a proven stayer at this distance. I thought Mr. Coffee had a great chance, and I think he's going to be a little bit missed by the market because he's a second season novice. The market tends to love potential, so hopefully we get a good price on him. Hopefully he'll piss up.
Yeah, see, I like it because that's what I'm sort of thinking about. I feel like he's one of those, isn't it? We look at it. Hang on, let me go, Jamie. I agree with Daryl with the fact there, like, hopefully he's one of those we look at and think he might be sort of missed by the market, or because of the fact that, like you say, like the new potential, that sort of stuff. I do need to massively caveat with Mr. Coffee, because if people do decide to follow in, if for any reason he is instilled as like favourite, like a sub 2-1 poke, then I wouldn't be touching him with anybody's money. I'm hoping that, again, it depends on the field size, but I'm hoping you might just stupidly get a bit of a price. One other one that I do want someone's opinion on is Hope Esteem as well, because it slipped, didn't it? And then didn't run so good on the comments for Race Post. I didn't watch it last time out, so if either of you saw that, please give me a heads up. But go on, Jamie. Go back at Daryl. Go on. Have a go.
He's never run over 3 miles.
Right.
Huh?
Who hasn't?
Mr. Coffee.
Last time he won a race, it was a 2-mile handicap hurdle on Sandown.
Yeah, but let's be honest, that's probably the last
I know. I try to get a poke out of you, but I can't have a horse. He'd fucking die up the hill. He'd be looking around.
He was unlucky in the Kim Muir. He does look around. He's a dog. Anyway,
he's a dog.
Did you watch him the last? Daryl, did you watch Hope at Steam the last day?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't done it.
That's the horse with potential, all right, Dave. I agree with you there.
I
don't know how much. I don't know how much. Yeah, I just don't understand how much the slip up and all that sort of stuff, how much it affected it. Because like we said, Mr. Coffee was hampered at the beginning of the race of the Kim Muir last year, and it made loads of mistakes and still almost got there. Anywho, done that race to the death. Let's get stuck into the Shloer, because I do feel like it should be fairly obvious for this one, and I don't know what's happened to my head. I've gone round the houses with it. Shall I lead off?
Work away.
I'm gonna do a Harry Skelton here, and I'm gonna go 10 clear and give you the answers. Right? I looked at this and I thought, maybe there might only be, I don't know, 4 or 5 runners that come out of it. I was sort of pricing the market on the Nube Negra, Sizing Potsy, Edwardstone, and Ganapathy, I think, or maybe I said Numitor. The Ganapathy Numitor, no chances anyway. When I looked at Sizing Potsy's got no chances as well, by the way. But when I looked at it, I was thinking there's not like that deeper field. So I'm thinking it's Nube Negra, Edwardstone for take up 90% of the book. How would we play it after? So I made Nube probably like an even money poke, and then Edwardstone maybe like a 6-4 poke or something. The bookies have got it probably like the other way around. Edwardstone's 4-5, Nube 6-4. So I was like, I think I might want to get stuck into Nube Negra, because the thing I like about this horse is when he is targeted for a race, I think he really does perform. He beat Altior, didn't he, at Kempton, when that was like a target. It was a comeback run, and he put a racing post rating of 167. Then in the Champion Chase after that, 168 was his racing post rating. Now I know he was pants at Punchestown, but that wasn't his target. That was an afterthought after Cheltenham. Then he starts in this race last season, puts up 168, and it was a good performance beating Politolog. Then after that, he goes to Tingle Creek, which, okay, didn't run that great. I don't think he likes Sand anyway, but that wasn't his target. Then he was targeted for the Champion Chase, didn't run because of the ground. So then when he ran at Sandown again, doesn't suit him, but it wasn't a target race. So you take those last 3 performances when he's targeted for a race, 167, 168, 168. So as far as I'm concerned, he's just going to bolt up. But then I start factoring in the fact of, do you know what? I was rude about Edwardstone last year. Let's have a little dip into him. And I know trusting racing post ratings is trusting someone else's figures. But he last year was 164, 164, 163, 164, 162, like the model of consistency. And because he gets a few pounds from Nube Negra, I don't think there is actually as much between them as my mind was trying to tell me. So I was fully prepared to possibly get stuck into Nube, especially if he starts to drift up from 6-4. Now I'm a bit reserved. So I need one of you to tell me what the right thing to do is. Jamie, who wins it?
I suppose the better the ground, the better the chance of Nube Negra, Dave. There's no question of that. And is this Edwardstone using this as a pipe opener to the Tingle Creek? Because Nube Negra will never win a Tingle Creek. Do you know what I mean? So £3, I suppose Edwardstone would always be the better jumper. I kind of starting to agree. I was the same with you. I was saying Edwardstone is a better jumper and all the way into the Tingle Creek. But I think this is Nube Negra's kind of half a Gold Cup kind of thing. Like, and I think there might be not much in it. I don't know why I'm tipping it and it's giving £3 to Edwardstone. But I think it's Nube Negra's day. And if there's no rain, he'll win.
What about you, Daryl? Any confidence?
I think the £3 is completely irrelevant, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The other thing is I think that Nube Negra needs a solid end-to-end gallop, because if you watch the way he jumps, he sort of almost over jumps and he gains so much ground at his fences that Harry Skelton is kind of always just reining him back a little touch after every fence. I think Edwardstone's the quicker jumper over a fence, and I think he's got the smarter turn of foot than Nube Negra. I think the market's got it right, in all honesty, although I'm not a huge fan of the form of the 2 mile division last year. I don't think he was beating proper 2 mile horses, if that makes sense. I think you could probably get all the horses that Edwardstone beat last year and you could filter them into handicaps. And I don't think that, you know what I mean? They wouldn't look like a standout candidate in a handicap. The only time he came up against a proper horse was Gentleman Demir at Aintree. Now, you could argue that it was at the end of a long season. Like you said, he was very consistent. I'm just not totally... While I absolutely love racing post ratings, and I do use them an awful lot, I'm not entirely sold on those ratings from the 2 mile division last year. I think he kind of had to, because of the races that he won, he kind of had to be given those ratings as opposed to what he beat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and that's what I sort of feel with it as well. And like, I know the negative I've got is, for me, I know I'm anti Edwardstone. I don't give him as much credit as he like maybe deserves. So that's why I was keen to know what you guys thought. And I think it is within that. Like, I think the market probably has got it right as opposed to me doing it. Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? And the thing is, what Alan King saying that Edwardstone is potentially going to step up in trip as well. I always talk about the middle trip horses. I know Allaho's a beast, and obviously Galloping Deschamps was a beast in middle trip last year, but a lot of horses will go to that middle trip because they're not quick enough for 2 miles and they don't stay enough for the 3 miles. So it makes me wonder there when Alan King's already talking negative about Edwardstone, and he's the same age as Nube Negre. So technically, I know he wasn't a second season novice. They could have scored him at home. He was potentially that year more mature than everything else last year, and he might not have the upward curve of it, but I think it makes me feel better. I'll say that Nube Negre will win, but I'll say I can't back him.
Where like the pace angle, surely size and Patsy, I presume, yeah. That all depends if Editor de G goes here as well. I think if Editor de G runs in here to give Nube Negre something to run at, yeah, definitely. Do you know what I mean? Be Nube Negre for me. I think the quicker they go, it suits Nube Negre as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well.
Just play devil's advocate, like with Nube Negre. You kind of have to look at the races that he's won as well. You know, like, do you remember obviously the season that Put the Kettle On won the Champion Chase? We all knew that was an absolutely shocking 2 mile division season, didn't we?
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. The deer shack up us were never got up the hill, yeah.
Yeah.
Stop bringing it right, bollocks. We're not doing any more of this. Don't.
No. I knew that touch the nerve with Dave. Check up first one.
Silence. Let Daryl speak. I'm done with all of you scumbags.
No, I'm just saying, like, for example, right, you look at every time Nube Negre has come up against a proper horse, like, let's just take the Altior performance out of it, because we know that as the start of Altior's complete decline, so it's hard to gauge what he actually achieved.
He ruined Altior.
Yeah, the Champion Chase was not great when you go back and look at it now. That Put the Kettle On one, right? It was a terrible race. Since then, he's only beaten an aging Politolog who was literally at the end of his career. Put the Kettle On and Rouge Fifth in the Shloer last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. Yeah. Like there's not really much substance to his form. I mean, he was beaten as a novice in the Henry VIII by Esprit de Large. Like Grand Sancy was in there, you know what I mean? Torpillo went off as bloody favourite. Like, there's not that much depth to his form. You could argue the case for both of Edwardstone and Nube Negre, but perhaps Edwardstone's just got that more consistency in his form with the likes of Warlord and Do Your Job and Third Time Lucky and Gavin Yako. Those are consistently performing at a level, whereas Nube Negre is a bit up and down. So I'd favour Edwardstone, but fuck me, don't have a bet in this.
Yeah, and that's exactly the market probably has got its point, and expect the consistency stuff as well. And this will be the last line that we're going to say on it. But I remember Edwardstone, Darryl. Do you remember when he ran at Wincanton? Because Fiddler on the Roof was there when he and we both. I think we both. I don't know if we did back Fiddler, but Fiddler was odds on after running at Chepstow, I think. But we liked Edwardstone as a horse back then, didn't we?
Yeah.
Then because of his hurdling stuff, when he stepped up a trip at Aintree, like almost.
Well, he always looked like he wanted to step up and trip over hurdles, didn't he?
Exactly, yeah. But he has always been consistent. He's always been good. But I just feel like he's always just never been that good. But let's be honest, this is a grade 2, and there's only one horse to beat in Nube Negre. And as you say, he's not the worldie anyway. Well, that's enough of that race. There's a Jewson's Handicap Chase after this. Not a race I'm interested in the slightest. Anyone got? Oh, actually, no, I tell a lie. There was one I was semi-interested in, but it's stupid. But I'll say it anyway. Everything else will say stupid. Ramses Ataye. I quite like him. I think he's down to like a pitiful mark. He won this race, didn't he, a couple of years ago off of like a £9 higher mark. I know he's dog shit since, but
£14 higher mark, David. 12. He won off 149, and now he's 137. Yeah.
So yeah, and he's a 10-year-old. So
he's won 2 years ago.
But he's about to turn 11. So that's the key thing when you look at these ages of horses. They all age at January. As much as he's 10, you can think, oh, he's just turned 10. He hasn't. He's nearly 11. So I've mentioned him. That's probably done. Anyone else got anything to mention?
Yeah, does he know should win, should he?
Should do.
Off 152, Darryl. Stink. Go out in front. Where you
yeah,
go.
like one. I know you say off 152, but like I'm not one of that. Like the rating of 152 next to his name doesn't really mean anything. It just determines what.
Oh, I know that. What's taking off with fucking things that work?
Yeah,
right.
Wins. I think he's against lesser opposition.
Yeah,
fair enough. I like Does, I was thinking of my pool bets again, but Ramses Ataye is going to go in there. Right, we've got better races to talk about anyway. We've got the Greatwood one that I looked at again from an anti-post perspective to see if I could get stuck into anything. I couldn't really find anything. I was very impressed with Dad's Lad when he ran in the October meeting because I felt like he won with so much left in hand. It's the same as the one that Gavin Lynch has put up for the Patomps. First Touch, was it, that won at the meeting as well? Both of those, when they won, they fling the reins out on them. So you can watch Brian Hayes when you go back and watch it, but like it's something that you like. I want to say you don't see it very often. You don't, but to see it twice at the same meeting, if you go back and watch when you never notice a jockey when they do it, it's almost like they've got so much horse underneath them. They're just like deliberately trying to do something to make it look like they've got nothing under them because they can't retain the horse without like letting some of the reins go. But this horse had tons left. And I know you only won by like the best part of a length, but he is short in here, and this is the type of race that can throw up one at a bit of a price, can't it? So one I did think was interesting was Gin Coco for Harry Fry, but I'm worried he's going to bottle it again because he keeps entering him in all these different types of races. He's got him in the Supreme Trial as well, isn't he, on Sunday? I think Gin Coco, if he came in here, I think you'd quite like it, but I've no confidence in the race at all. Daryl, you confident on anything?
Not at this stage, but I have had a bet on one at a big price. Just Go like a tentative selection, really. Playful Saint for Dan Skelton. I wanted to get Sonagino beat at Chepstow last time because he's a horse that's had two very soft leads out in front. He's done very poor time figures on my sheet, and I really wanted to get him beat, and I knew the market loves the Nichols horse, and he was odds on. I laid him and backed Playful Saint, but Playful Saint was never put in the race at all. Just held up at the rear of the field, made a little bit of headway, and then he did this really strange thing where instead of going through the gap, he ducked behind a horse, Zambezi Fix, on the rail, and just rid him out under hand and heels. And I just thought that was a bit strange. He's obviously got quite a good record in this race. They won it with Westport last year and Northfield Harvey a few years back. I just wonder if this has been the target for him. He's extremely lightly raced. He had one run last year. He was off 1,000 days from his French run. He ran at Wetherby, beat a course specialist in Albert's Back that day on heavy ground. And I don't actually think he wants proper deep ground like that. I think it was quite a taking performance because he came from off a real steady pace and just picked him up really easily, and then just sort of tired towards finish and just clung on. I thought there was a bit of promise in that run. He was obviously off since, kept fresh for the new season, and I just thought it was very, very interesting. He's off a mark around 125. He could be a good deal better than that.
I like it. That's one for me to add to the old shortlist then. Cheers, mate. Right, Jamie, I've got to ask you, obviously, because you're the Irish correspondent. 1,000 Tears, I see on here that he's a 4-1 poke. I can see he's £11 up from his Irish mark. How the hell have they fathomed that unless someone's got wind that this horse is 50 stone better than it's ever shown?
I've never even heard of him before the race.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. They done it before with the shunter, same crowd, but this is madness, ludicrous. 4-1, I couldn't have it. I agree with you. I don't really like anyone, Dave, to be honest with you. I echo exactly what you're saying. I think Sonagino has been given two soft leads. I saw exactly what Darryl was saying. I saw he ducked in. I thought they were pulling him that day for a different day. Do you know what I mean? And I don't agree that Dan Skelton says he needs soft ground. I think he'll go on any ground. So he's definitely worth a squeak. Dad's Lad, I agree with you, he'd loads left, but is he a better chaser than he's a hurdler? That's my only problem. He'd love a fast pace, I will say that, and he could have loads left, as you say. The only other one in here really that interests me is Harbour Lake. I thought he travelled like a good thing last time. Mark Ray's over a bit further, but if I have a strong opinion, my horse that I've fancied is gone, so I don't have a huge opinion on the race, to be honest with you. It's bad.
Perfect. Well, I think that's typical of the Greatwood. There's some years where you can have a real strong fancy on something. If you find yourself fancying a few, then I guess you don't really fancy anything. We've got another grade 2, though. We've got the Supreme Trial, which is, I like this race. I know not necessarily it's been spitting out winners after winners after winners after it, but Altior came in, didn't he, and won a Supreme. We have had some good horses that won it in the past. I looked at this field and I was deeply disappointed because I don't see anything in here that really jumps out at me on the form that we've seen of some of these horses that I think could be any good, to be honest with you. So I know it's a bit harsh. It means that I'm going to give Dear Mark another mention. I mentioned him when he ran in the maiden hurdle at the meeting last month because I think he is going to be much better over obstacles. I thought he ran pretty well then. And he's a 33-1 poke. obviously we need to see what the final declarations are, but I suspect there would be enough runners in here to get like an each way or a place play on him. So I would be tempted that, I'm not saying he'll necessarily definitely be ridden for places, but I think the horse will be staying at the end. So he'd be interested in me at a big price, but there's nothing of the ones that are shorter when I start dipping into their form that I could be remotely interested in. Darren, have you got a different view?
I don't know. This Iberico Lord could be pretty useful for Nicky Henderson. But you couldn't be confident just on that one flat run in France. I'll just quickly mention about Springwell Bay. I think Springwell Bay is a pretty good horse, right? I do think he's a pretty good horse, but I think he's a 2.5 mile plus horse. I'm very, very surprised if he's declared for this, because his next outing after Carlisle, they did have another outing for him over 2 mile 5 somewhere. And a lot of people were getting excited about this horse for the Supreme. Now, when he ran at Carlisle, he jumped slightly to the right as well, which would be a negative if he's coming on his left-handed track. But the time was like ridiculously slow. But from the back of the last to the line, he did run 8 lengths quicker than anything else. So he's obviously got a decent engine on him, but he definitely wants to step up and trip. I just wouldn't be getting excited about him for the Supreme. I know I've seen people that have backed him for the Supreme, and I think it's madness because he's bred to be a proper stayer in the making, and I can't see him going that way. And whether or not he'd be good enough anyway, I don't know. But the second horse, Lawrence of Dan Skelton's, was beaten 3 lengths that day from off the pace, worth an upgrade of the effort. But the point from that horse is not great either. Spring Rabbit could be a useful horse. He bumped into Adamantly Chosen in Punchdown. It could be, but I definitely think that he's a stayer for the future. So regardless whether he wins this, I wouldn't be backing him for a Supreme.
Yeah, fair enough. Is there one you do like in the race?
No.
Okay, good. Jamie, what do you make of it?
I echo what Daryl said. I think he needs further. There's a lot of potential in here. I see there's Skelton has entered fodder, Jazz 101 horse in the flat. Never know. I don't really have an opinion. I can't believe that joint favours Plains Indian. I suppose the form is there with 4th behind Champ Coyote, but this horse is given a mark in England of 141. Like, surely a horse that has any bit of a potential in this race would beat him. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he wouldn't be on the radar for any race, in my opinion. I suppose the Springwell Bay has it. I think he just needs further, Dave. I agree with Darrell, and I wouldn't be having to. I don't have a match opinion on the place at all. Like, he's not correct.
Beautiful. Well, I think we're all in agreement then. Springwell Bay is a bad favourite, and Dear Mark at 33-1 is probably all of our best bets of the whole entire weekend. Honestly, this horse is definitely it's going to run. They nibbled it the last day as well from 25s in. I thought he ran well. Like, he didn't have the best of passages all the way through the race. This will be probably like a bit of a tighter field. And as much as we slated that Laddygag, didn't we, Darryl, before it ran the last day?
Yeah, nothing proved though. Christ.
No, I agree. But I still just think that this horse at 33-1 has got enough in the book to say that he, in this field, because the field's crap, when it gets to the final field of 7 or 8 and he's definitely going to run, he'll go off single figures. I'll be adamant of that. Anywho, he's the nap of the whole festival for everybody on the panel. I've put one up at a big price. This isn't a normal year, I don't think. There could be something that props out of it, but I think 10 of the last 14 winners of this race were priced 3-1 or under. So normally, maybe the market does guide, but not this year. Dear Mark's going to win. Then we've got another bumper. It's a race that, again, I've not looked too much into, but I've looked at a few of them in there, but I was just left a bit disappointed, to be honest with you, even delving back through breeding and stuff to see if I could find something. There isn't anything that gets me excited. I do like the fact that this Iberico Lord is in the Supreme and in the bumper as well, because that's potentially going to be, he ends up running in the bumper and he ends up being an absolute smash-up job because he could have won in a grade 2. But that's the only way I see it in there. I know Milton Harris has got a couple in there again, but I suspect that's what might happen. Iberico Lord might go in this, but then the Supreme trial looks so weak that maybe they might as well just have a pop at that. JB, you got anything you like in the bumper?
No. Looked at it like yourself, Dave. Yeah.
No, sorry, not for me, Dave, either.
Probably watching a horse race, aren't you? Some professional tips to you are watching racing. Right, that wraps up Sunday. I really appreciate your boys' time. I know it's been difficult because of the fact that we haven't got final declarations, but it's nice just to get through the cards with some smart people. Be lucky over the weekend, and I will catch up with you again soon. Cheers, boys.